here now is fucking had to go see a couple of people stuck in mental traffic as well. So I'm literally just getting here now. Do me a favour, share this around now for me, yeah? 100%. Just here now, turn it around. Here we go, decent enough crowd at the turning up. Share this around for me, please, folks. Eh? Everybody share it for me. I'm just here now. Share this for me, folks. Do it around. Eh? Sorry, I'm late. Alright. Sorry, I'm fucking late. I had to go see a few people, man. Start buying on too, what? Yeah.
And makes the government gets to select certain groups who privilege. And there's certain aspects being made very clear in the goal already. Cahill Crow, Fianna Fáil, Fianna Fáil, TD down in Clare. Made comments that part of the intent of this bill.
I know it's 2 or 3 people that were sending me messages like that, and all the accounts got fucking wiped out.
It's about this bill is all about censored. Is there anybody out here who's willing to be censored?
No!
Second aspect of this bill, which Jared touched on there, is section 15, where it's a thought crime legislation, where at the whim of a Garda who suspects that someone may have material in their possession which some people may perceive as hateful, that they can go and ask a judge and get a search warrant to take away, break into the house with reasonable force, it says, take all their communication material, be it phones and computers, and also to search all the friends and the family inside that property at the minute. It is unbelievable. This is, like we used to have, Ireland used to be under Cromwellian rule. And we used to have, but now this legislation is Orwellian.
Sounding all alright. Yeah.
And it is like dystopian in its nature. It's very, very dangerous. But let's make sure, everybody, that we will stand against it. And do you know one thing? The only thing that makes these people afraid is, one, you get notice going out rallies on the street. So fair play to everybody who's gone out in the last 6 months and rallied to show the government that we're opposed to the colonisation of Ireland, because we never asked for it and we don't want it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Instead, what we want is a free people and a free country, and we'll decide what we think and what we say. So get out, show your feelings to people, get on to your senator and make very clear to the 50 senators in there that this legislation must be stopped. The amendments must be, a raft of amendments must be put in to stop the real effect of this legislation. But let's be very clear, the only thing that politicians in Ireland fear is losing votes and losing money. So we are looking for more candidates to run in the next general election. So if you're frisky for a run in the election, in the Grand National of the general election, please make your name and voice heard to yourselves, because we want to run candidates in every constituency in the country that we can generate fear and loathing in the political class in Ireland. That we need to make these people afraid of us, afraid of the Irish people. Instead of them thinking they can generate fear with us. No way. So, I'm going to introduce a number of people. I will start first with candidates and people who are running as candidates for the Irish Freedom Party. So first of all, Daithí O'Fallon from County Mayo. He's well dressed today. Where is he?
This is what it's all about, folks.
Oh, look at that. Oh, girls.
Hey!
Look, he's made an effort. So, ladies and gentlemen, Daithí O'Fallon. Give him a full applause.
Good afternoon. Yeah, loud enough? Loud enough. Right, well, where does the impetus for Ireland's new hate speech bill come from? In short, it's coming from the EU. Thank you very much.
Hey!
If you read the bill, on the bottom of page 2, you'll see the word schedule. Now what a schedule is in this case, it's a document that has actually been attached to the bill. The reason is you can't understand the bill without understanding the attachment. Under that word schedule, you'll see the title of this document, and it is the Council Framework Decision of 2008. That decision is from the EU. If you're interested in reading the whole thing, it's attached at the end of the document. So basically, I'm here to draw your attention to the EU's handling of hate speech. Now, the wording that we're getting on our bill does not come directly from the EU. That's not how it works. But the bill isn't. The EU passes what it calls directives, which provide an outline of what must be included in the laws of member states. So the directive is then transposed, is the word they use, into local law. And what that means is they have to put it in the local language, and then they have to accommodate some maybe local traditions or local customs. This is why it sometimes takes many years for laws to actually come from the EU to actually into Irish law. Speak up. Right. The EU has been pushing hate speech laws since the 90s. But relevant for today, as I said, is the 2008 Council Framework Decision. In this, it provided provisions against public incitement of violence or hatred, or dissemination of tracts, pictures, etc., of violence or hatred. Basically, this document was just supposed to be stopping people more, louder. I gotta get Herman Kelly style on this, right? Basically, this document is just supposed to be stopping xenophobia or racism. Now then we have to fast forward to 2020, when our law started getting codified in law. Now, in order to do this, I have to talk about Ursula von der Leyen. And please, can we get a boom for Ursula von der Leyen? Thank you very much. In her State of the EU address, she said, "Hate is hate, and no one should put up with it." Well, that's great, but does she have a plan of how to get rid of hate? Yes, she does. In this, she said, the Commission will propose to extend the list of EU crimes, all forms of hate crime and hate speech, whether you belong to a race, religion, gender, or sexuality. You can see the list is starting to get longer. In support of this change, she cited the EU Charter of Fundamental Rights and Article 2 of the Treaty on the EU. She then continues, indeed, any form of discrimination, be it based on sex, racial or ethnic origin, religion or belief, disability, age, sexuality, or the list gets longer and longer. All of this stuff is going to be prohibited. So, and this is where it gets serious. This is where it matters for us now and where it matters for us in the future. Article 83(1) of the Treaty of the Functioning of the EU provides a list of areas of crime where the European Parliament and the Council can establish minimum rules concerning the definition and criminal offences and sanctions applicable in all member states. So in step 1, the Council adopts the proposal to make hate speech one of these crimes under 83(1) that the EU can demand EU membership states submit to, and then you get step 2. The Commission proposes these directives on definitions and sanctions of hate speech and hate crime to be adopted by the European Parliament and Council. So let's be very clear. The proposed hate speech in Ireland wasn't some wacky idea our stupid politicians came to in some drunken night after hours in the pub. These laws are coming directly from the EU. Our government is only falling in line and following orders. Thank you very much.
Patrice, who is our candidate for Rocketep Dundalk area.
No. Dermot's going before me, Michael.
Sorry?
Dermot's going before me. Oh, Dermot's first.
Do you ever look Conrad? He's running in Dublin. Dublin.
Is out here. The man that got us into the EU headquarters the last week, 2 weeks ago.
Our things, folks. First off, I just want to thank everyone for coming, because without a visible resistance, there might as well be none. And the state doesn't feel the need to react to anything unless they think the problem is not going away. And I can tell you, I'm not going away on this.
Never.
Now,
Never.
first and foremost, there's no progression ever achieved, and there's no tyranny ever fought if you can't speak about it. And we can't consider ourselves a free people if we can't even express an opinion without that becoming subject to a legal investigation. That's not how freedom works. Now, more to the point, there is no mandate from the people for this whatsoever. Nobody asked for this in Ireland but NGOs, and every poll that has been taken has been wildly against it. So I think maybe it's time the people in the Dáil and the Shannon were reminded that this country doesn't belong to them. It belongs to us. Now, we are not, and we have never been their subjects. And I don't intend starting now, especially when the Justice Minister, Helen McGuinty, whose bill this is, got voted in on the 7th count. And now we have Simon Harris carrying it along, who got voted in on the 15th count. There might never have been a government in Ireland that had less of a mandate than this one, but they tried to take free speech away. It's insane. Now, I want to remind us of something here in this country. One of the last times in this country that we had laws around what you couldn't say, speaking Irish was the crime. And children were shamed all over this country with on batter score just for speaking their native language. Only this time, the truth is the target of the law. So where are we going to be in 100 years if we let this pass through? Because, make no mistake about it, these laws are for adults, but they will be imposed on children in schools. If your child makes the mistake of calling a boy a girl, then all of a sudden, on an industrial scale, we will be shaming Irish children again. Because this is not just a law, it's a culture of censorship. Now, the Dáil did us no favours. Our human rights groups did us no favours. And the Shannon are not going to be able to stop this either. We'd be lucky if they amend it. And even them amending it is not a victory for us. Because laws that are immoral on a foundational basis can't be amended to become moral. We need to get rid of them entirely. And that brings me to Drew Harris, the Garda Commissioner. And when he tried to impose pronouns, in the workplace, the members of Garda Síochána rightfully pushed back against this nonsense. But that begs the question, how can they impose on us what they won't accept themselves? And now we already have the 1989 Incitement to Hatred Act in Ireland, and it's almost never used, because Ireland is not the cauldron of hatred and racism that NGOs would have you believe it is.
Correct.
This is purely about censorship. It's not about hatred in the slightest. Now, in America, over a course of 5 years, there were over 600 hate crimes reported that turned out to be utter lies. And that is the door we're opening, right? Now, the last thing I want to say, folks, is we are going to have to find ways to fight this. It's not going to be beaten in 2 weeks or a month and a half, but it has to be beaten, because this cannot be allowed to become law for every generation of Irish people. It's about the country we're leaving behind now. Thanks for your time, folks.
As far as I can see.
Good morning, I'd like to introduce now our Irish Freedom Party candidate in Drogheda Rural. There's the Mayor of Drogheda, Michelle Hall, who's gung-ho for a direct provision centre in Termonfeckin. You may have seen the video about the Afghanistani who wanted to introduce Sharia law and what was it? What do you call that food to eat? And he wanted Muslim chefs, etc. What a cheek. He's only arrived in the country 2 weeks. What a neck. But anyway, Michelle Hall, and she'd be a great candidate, very active, very brave, a mother of 5 children. She wants to stand up for her kids, so build a boss for Patrice Johnson.
They forget I'm smaller than them. We are louder.
That's it.
No, I think all this now with the trans issue is going to affect me as a mum and a mother. Like if a man comes in a dress in the women's bathroom, if I turn around and tell him out, I could be done for that. Even down to the kids, if the kids turn around and say, oh, that's a man, they could be even done. And like even well, no, my kids, they probably would do it.
Anybody else have a bit of common
But
sense?
it's not fair, like we misgender someone, we're done for. We can't continue this. Like it's sick what they're pushing, even in the schools. Like a lot of parents don't understand what's going to happen in schools come September with the new RSC programme either. That's when uproar is going to start. You're going to see more parents out complaining. None of us want this in schools. I don't want my kids knowing any of this. Like my 4-year-old will be going to big school. There's no way I want her seeing half that stuff. She's a child, she doesn't need to learn it. Even down to the older kids. There's enough shit online that they can find out without seeing this and learning it in school. Exactly. And we're all going to be in trouble for pointing it out. So up until September, everyone needs to push against this free speech and fight back. Because it's not going to stop. The only way to stop it is we do it.
We won't stop!
Thank you!
That's it. We're not in your way, am we? Not 7 foot tall. Wasn't it?
Carter, I would now like to introduce to you our candidate in Clare and chairman of the Irish Freedom Party, Bula Boss, for Michael Leahy.
Thank you very much. For the Irish Freedom Party, the protection of free speech is our absolutely non-negotiable core value. It is probably the main reason we came into existence as a party. But it now seems we are coming to the end game of a process that this party has warned about for the past 4 years. If this bill is passed, it marks the end of our democracy, the end of Ireland as a sovereign nation, the overthrow of the rule of law and the enslavement of the Irish people. We cannot and we will not let that happen.
Ever.
Free speech must be regarded as a primary liberty, because without free speech, no other freedom can be defended or vindicated. This has been recognised since ancient times, that without free speech...
The generator went.
What happened?
Beautiful day.
Sorry folks, can you still hear me? Okay, sorry about that. We'll see if we can get the generator going again. It's new equipment, so we're finding our way. Without free speech, you can have no democracy, you can have no politics. We've got to ask 2 questions about this bill now. Why is it Ireland, and why is it now? Why now? Our government needs us to be silent because it does not want us questioning the policy of mass immigration and replacement of the Irish population. It does not want us questioning the paedophile story time and the corruption of our children in our primaries by homosexual pornography in our primary schools. It does not want us questioning the damage that they inflicted on us and on our relatives during the lockdown, and the damage they propose to inflict on us with their nonsensical climate policies. Why is it happening in Ireland? Why are we the country to introduce an anti-free speech regime which has shocked commentators throughout the world? And one thing I can say to you is the one thing the Irish government may respond to: contact US House of Representatives if you know them, and you know, we all know people in the United States, we all know people in Britain. Get them to protest against this government for what they're doing, because if this law is passed here, it will spread like a cancer to other democratic societies, and we have to stop that happening. Why is it that over the past 20 to 30 years, Ireland is always the most extreme country in its attacks against property and free speech, in the politicising of its judiciary, and its attacks against the family and against Christian belief? Perhaps because being a small island country, it is easier to corrupt our unscrupulous establishment and to gag our media. Perhaps because Ireland is a test case of what is going to be done elsewhere. However, I have a word of warning to those who would destroy liberty in Ireland, and that is that they would do well to look to the lessons of Irish history. We fought worse tyrants than these bullies before, and we chased them out of our country. We are well capable of doing the same thing again, and those in our government, dominated by people with no loyalty whatsoever to this country, would do well to remember that. If we do not have free speech, we cannot describe ourselves as a free society. Our freedom can't be taken for granted. It was hard won, and we have a duty to fight hard to retain it.
Testing tower back. Thanks, guys. That's a bit better. If we allow a gang of unscrupulous elites to determine what we can and cannot say in public and even in private, then the great struggle for Irish freedom and Irish independence, whose 100th anniversary they tried so hard to ignore last year, will have been in vain. We must let governments, both national and European, know that the Irish people will never let that happen. Previous Irish generations showed their mettle in fighting tyranny, and we can take example for them. It is now up to us to show that the Irish spirit, the Irish commitment to liberty is still alive and will never be extinguished, save in the words of Pat Pierce, by the extinction of the Irish people. And we saw a bit of that spirit last night in Pierce Street. That's what we need in every town and country up and down this country. This legislation has been introduced at the behest of a gang of black-shirted fascists and activists who regularly bring their violence onto our streets. Supported by all of our major parties, it has all the classic hallmarks of totalitarian law, in that it is deliberately vague, it is all-encompassing, and it intrudes into the innermost part of our private lives. Most dreadfully, it shifts the burden of proof from the accuser to the accused, so that you, the citizen, now have to prove your innocence. Nobody, and I mean nobody, is safe from this legislation, and that is its intent. Any parent who seeks to protect their children from the sexual predators who now manipulate our government, anyone who objects to their neighbourhood being taken over by unvetted immigrants, anyone who objects to the madness being taught in our schools, all have the potential to be arrested, massively fined, or imprisoned under this legislation. When I tell that to people, they simply don't believe me. Go and look at the legislation. Look at what our Dáil is proposing against its own people. We got to wake up to the fact they hate our guts. And if we want to fight hate, the first place we should start is with this hateful government. The Burkes, with all their faults, have been the canary in the coal mine, and the way they have been treated by our state is a salutary warning for what may be in store for the rest of us. We must also question the role of the European Union in this matter. When I see Mark Rutte, the Dutch Prime Minister, who has attacked his own farmers, demanding the expulsion of Hungary because it dares to try to protect itself from the promotion of homosexuality to children, And when he says that this is an indication that that Hungary does not subscribe to European values, I can only say that if European values involve the predatory sexualization of children, then it is time that those European values were swept back into the gutter where they belong. For the first time in our history, this legislation introduces the twin concepts of hate crime and hate speech. Does anybody think, as I do, that when you start using those terms in the context of legislation, that it brings us directly to the horrible world of George Orwell's 1984? Many people in our government seem to think that 1984 is not a warning, it's an operation manual, and they're now putting it into place. Orwell warned us that when an idea can no longer be spoken or expressed, it very quickly becomes an idea which can no longer even be thought. So we are not here just to defend free speech. We are here to defend free thought and defend our rights and dignities as human beings. I am here to say we will never let them take our dignity without a fight of the most determined and bitter kind. And if they want that fight, they can have it. This legislation is of a piece with much of the other legislation that we see coming at us day by day. What we are seeing is the beginning of an unprecedented surveillance and control system into which the lives of all of us will be tied, including health records, banking and credit. It has all the hallmarks of being the precursor of the horrible Chinese Communist Party social credit system. And if we do not stop it now, it has the potential to enslave us for generations to come. When government tries to introduce a modern technocratic system of slavery, we must say to them that our forebears fought for 300 years to end slavery, and we will not allow them to bring it in by the back door again. From the point of view of natural justice, this legislation has at least two elements that should fill us all with dread. It defines hate crime as any crime which is perceived by the receiving party as having been motivated by hate. Just think about that for a moment. Such a perception is purely subjective and can have no place in any just law. What burden of proof will be required other than somebody's feelings? This is clearly a blackmailer's charter and a liar's license. In addition, it introduces a two-tier system of law with a very restricted group of designated victim classes being empowered to use legislation to attack and suppress the free speech rights of the majority population. I needn't tell you that this legislation is not going to be dealt with in an even-handed fashion. Do you seriously think that they're going to use this against Islam? Do you seriously think they're going to use it against the criminal elements that they're bringing into this country? This legislation is aimed at you. It's aimed at keeping you silent. It is aimed at attacking your rights. It will be imposed in a racist way against Irish people, and that's why it has to be stopped. It concentrates on three main victim classes relating to race, gender, sexuality and religion. Can we really believe that the elaborate sexual identification and gender politics contained in this law is anything other than an indirect means of attacking religious freedom? Is it not also a means of attacking the identity of human beings themselves? And a foreign president once commented about the West that they now seem to be attacking what it is to be a man or a woman. And that's why the West is in so serious decline. The person who made that comment was President Putin. And I can tell you, when he's looking down on us and when he's regarding what we're doing as totalitarian, we've got a serious problem. We must also question what impact this legislation will have on the role of An Garda Síochána in our society. An Garda Síochána are going to be put in a situation of prosecuting people, not for criminal acts, but for holding the wrong opinions. We must question whether the Guards will be forced to become the political arm of an emergent police state. And if you want to taste of what that might be like, then think of the lockdown on steroids. I would say to the Garda Síochána, are you happy to be asked to be a new Stasi in Ireland? Are you happy to break into people's houses and seize their computers and question them about their opinions? Because that's what you're going to be faced with. We need An Garda Síochána to be just that, the guardians of the peace, and not the enforcers of an intolerant, racist and sexist moral code of political correctness. 2 years ago, speaking from these steps and referring to the attack against our constitution under the lockdown, I said that we still had a chance that the higher courts would vindicate our rights and call the government to its senses. I fear, sadly, that my faith in the courts may have been mistaken. The courts had adequate opportunity to protect the people's rights during the lockdown, and they refused to do so. We need to know now, do we have a constitution or do we not have a constitution? Will the courts vindicate our rights, or will they accept that there is no such thing as a right to freedom if that is what the government tells them to do? Because if that's what the courts are saying, then we don't have a constitution and we need a new constitutional architecture. Much of our present higher judiciary have been put in place by Fine Gael. It's important to realise that Fine Gael are every...
Hook on. Get the loudspeaker.
Fine Gael are every bit as much of a threat to the stability of our democracy as are the traitors, the globalist traitors of Sinn Féin, or the madmen and madwomen of the Green Party. The judges they have been appointed have been put there to ignore the human rights provisions of the Constitution and to enable the government to do whatever it wants. Repeatedly, the courts have ignored the concept of imprescriptible rights and of natural law. If the courts will not vindicate us, if the courts will not stand up for the liberties of the Irish people, established through 300 years of sacrifice and struggle and blood and suffering, then the courts are not fit for purpose. They must be swept aside and replaced with a new system that will protect us.
That's it.
This may seem like fighting talk, but perhaps it is a time for fighting. The reality is that it is the people and the nation which will be swept aside if we do not make a stand now. The worst thing we can do is to allow ourselves to become demoralized. The undermining of our society, the taking away of our history and culture, the corruption of public morality and the apparent powerlessness of ordinary people is a carefully planned process of demoralization which has been going on now for some decades, not just in Ireland but throughout the Western world, with the rotten, dishonest European Union at its core.
Well said.
We need to be active and on the streets. We need more of the clear street spirit. We need to have mass meetings such as these in every town in the country and every day and night of the week. We want to let those in power know that we are a free people and that we will remain a free people and that we are a great historic nation and that we will not allow this nation to perish. We need to say to those who seek to destroy us, we are coming. It is not you who will destroy us, but it is we the people that will destroy you. We are coming to demand justice for Ireland. We are coming, and there is no power on earth that will stop a unified and risen people when it is awakened.
Yes, love it, love it, love it.
I know that at times it can seem that we face insurmountable odds. You will hear nothing about this rally in our newspapers tomorrow, and you will hear nothing about it in our Mockingbird state television. But I can tell you who will notice it. The elected representatives who will begin to realize that their jobs are on the line. They will notice it, and for that reason, we must continue to be active and to make noise. You know, I spoke at the last time I was here, and whenever I speak to a meeting, I always look at what date it is, what the anniversary was. Last time, it was the anniversary of the death of General Michael Collins. Today is the 13th of May, and I looked at my diary. Today is the anniversary of the first apparition at Fatima. You know, I think there may be a message there somewhere, because we need prayer. We are faced with an unaccountable evil when we look at the faces of our government. And we can be as active as we want, but we also need to get on our knees and pray for the help of Almighty God. I conclude by thanking you for coming out in such great and enthusiastic numbers today. And I ask you to continue to stand by our country, to stand by our nation, to stand by the Irish Republic, and to stand by God Almighty for the rights and liberties of the Irish people.
Yes! Yes! Oh, sorry. This rock crowds, folks. It's a beautiful sunny day. That's what it's all about.
We're just getting our generator sorted out. It's a new boy on the block.
All the money you have, you think you have a brand new one, wouldn't it?
I'll Photoshop it.
Turn it off completely.
Fighting talk, horses fighting talk. Fighting Irish. Huh?
For Marshall.
I think he's at the same thing there. I don't know if he's just what after this, yeah. Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah.
You go down there, go around the people.
That's where all the man brought us the opposite way, yeah. It's almost the same. Oh no, we'll go on.
The other day, class.
Me?
Yeah.
Thanks very much. I was walking around back to the shop here and on, yeah. Oh, I heard someone, I can barely hear you out here, yeah. I heard someone calling me. Some fella stopped his jeep and around there was like, fucking AJ, keep up that good fun. I was like, oh right, yeah, when they walking with me young one, like, you know what I mean, just hanging out with the jeep.
Hello everyone, can you hear me there?
Yeah.
Before I start, I'd just like to say a big thank you to...
Tell them the truth, they're saying what they want to say.
I was supposed to introduce myself. Shane Lynham, Irish Freedom Party representative for Westmeath, will be running in the next local election. Okay. Before I start, I want to thank the Natural Women's Council for the hard work they've been doing.
Yes! The tech show, the whole band over there, look. You've been doing the rounds, the books and all that stuff.
When I look around here today, I don't see hate or fear or anger. Hatred, fear and anger is the currency of this corrupt government and their NGO minions. To deal with that, so that's all they can see, that's all they know, that's their currency. It's how they see the world around them. Where they choose violence and intimidation,
right, yeah,
we have chosen the path of free speech, and they are trying to take that away from us. I look around me, I don't see hate. I see determination. I see resilience, and I see a desire for freedom. In autocracies, they use political repression to prevent anti-regime support and mobilization, and that's what they're doing to us. We see this in China, where there is tight control on the flow of information. North Korea, where certain phrases critical of the regime or supportive of capitalism have been eliminated from written and spoken language, and have even gone so far as to ban sarcasm. On the 13th of April, 20 young North Korean ice skaters were sentenced to 3 to 5 years hard labour for using capitalist phrases. The evidence was found on a phone during a routine inspection raid by police. You can only imagine the excitement at Fine Gael HQ at the thought of routine inspection raids for hate speech.
Going up for it.
Free speech is universal. Hate speech is a matter of opinion and timing. Where incitement to hatred and violence, as we so often see from the so-called militant left groups in Ireland, is abhorrent and should be challenged at every opportunity. There should be no restrictions on the type of speech that some people might merely find offensive. The bigger the chip on their shoulder, the bigger the offence, it seems. Their victim cards are due to expire shortly. The sinister nature of the anti-free speech law is further exacerbated when you look at the weak-minded fools who have brought it into being. Never in our history have we seen such weak leadership and cowardice dangling from EU and WEF puppet strings. Maybe it's time for the honest, hard-working people of Ireland to dip their hands into the greasy world of politics and drive from it a dream that was Ireland, and hold it up from an example of what a nation can be if they only stood up against tyranny, greed and oppression. When did words become weapons? When did we as a species become so weak and easily offended? How did we get to a point in our history again where Irish men and women be imprisoned for having an opinion? How did we get to the stage where mentally ill became a protected characteristic? You only have to follow the slimy path of the gravy train and you won't be long in discovering your answer. And an NGO's profiteering from scaremongering that's going on. Lekela, Ireland for All, and other parasites on our nation.
NGOs out!
against Ireland who would dare to measure us with their standards. They themselves fall short in every moral standard there is. The online bullying and harassment that they freely engage with is state-funded and endorsed, and they have the nerve to call us fascists. We are living through one of the most one-sided media bias era in our short history as a nation. RTE are banned from showing migration in a negative light, and all government-funded advertising must show multiculturalism. In March, on the recommendation of the Future Media Commission, the National Counter Disinformation Strategy Working Group was established. How long before we see the Ministry of Truth operatives knocking on people's doors, arresting people for thought crime? As Orwell said, if liberty means anything at all, it means the right to tell people what they do not want to hear. Ireland as a nation is clearly being held together by an invisible force, and that is our desire for freedom and our ability to express ourselves freely. We are all that stands between freedom and abject slavery to oppression and greed.
Keep on, chill.
Just keep talking.
To our government, I say this, but I hope you like a bit of parody. This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be in a pub on the other side of the country. Yet you waste our time and threaten our freedom with this bullshit law. How dare you? It's time for the ordinary Irish people with common sense to start replacing the political class at all levels. Stand with us and see it happen.
Absolutely. Well said. Well said.
Ladies and gentlemen, a man you all know very well over the last number of months, helped me organise all around the country and especially in East Paul, protest against the colonisation, the new plantation of Ireland, is Solicitor Molly Steenson, who is here as an independent guest speaking. Give him a big round of applause to Molly Steenson. Go to Martha.
Oh, Malky.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
The first thing I want to do is to give a big shout out to those who last night took part in the Battle of Quay Street. They sent a very clear message to the political and NGO class in this country that the working class have risen. We will no longer be dictated to by those who wander down from Trinity College with their degrees and tell us what to do and how to think.
Never.
Many of the other speakers have dealt with the legalities of this legislation. The right to free speech is not about my right to say what I want and to say things that I want to debate. It's about saying things that I don't want to debate. That's the bit that they is.
Thank you. Alright, how are you? Let's get a picture of this there. Oh, no, there's the girls again. Fair play, just coming up. Good going, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's great.
Party around, is he? Around somewhere. Yeah, what's next?
You know what next Saturday? It's global thing. It's like, so everybody all over the world, everybody's doing a global. They get on the park it's like we're going to come here, we're going to meet with Garden of Remembrance and then walk down the street and then
Another one to add to the blade and calendar.
Yeah, definitely come.
Ah, listen. Like, don't try me, we're a good time. Right there.
Any issue with Republicans. The reason they're bringing in this legislation is not alone because of the European directive. It's because when we stood up in East Wall last November, that gave rise to people coming out and standing up against the inward migration and the takeover of this country. They are afraid that people are seeing what's going on right through every part of this country, people have stood up. We want the right to say and think what we want, whether we're right or wrong. We have the right as a free people to have a free mind, to be educated and to understand in our own way what is happening in this country. We have the right to make our own minds up. We have the right not to be dictated to by the thousands of NGOs who make a fortune in this country from the taxpayer. We have the right not to be dictated to by the political class. We had Leo Varadkar said a number of years ago he would be opposed to restrictions on free speech. As he brings in legislation now, the most draconian in Europe, to limit and stop free speech. The same man. The same man a number of years ago said that he would be very reluctant to limit the right to public protest, as he now brings in legislation to stop protests at a never-increasing number of places.
This is East Germany.
In all of those lists, he hasn't included the Dáil, and people tell us we should be marching on the Dáil. If the Dáil was a place where any decisions were made, or where we could have any influence by marching outside it, then that place would be on the list. We have a political class in this country who don't know what to think. They're coming out with degrees in politics, degrees in economics. They tell you 2 and 2 is 6. That's right. So much for our economics. We are here because we have risen. And the Irish people will no longer stand back or sit down or stay in their houses, as many of them did for the past couple of years. And have no doubt that the whole COVID thing was about seeing how much compliance they would get from the population. And it's sad to say that in a country that claims to have fought for its freedom for many years, fought against the penal laws, fought against the famines, fought against every attempt to colonise us in the past, that people just lay down and said, how long more so will I stay with this? Can I see me granny through the window in our nursing home? And people went with it. You know, it says something about the state of mind of people in this country. And it's up to us here today to get out there and convince our friends and our families that we're not the mad people. We're not the conspiracy theorists. They are the people who are bringing in this legislation. They are the ones who want to restrict our right to protest. They are the ones who want to restrict our right to think. And there will be nobody who will stop me thinking and saying what I want. And I'm sure I speak for everyone here today.
Absolutely.
It's our job to educate our children so that they become rounded individuals, so they know right from wrong. And again, I say, mention the penal laws. Are we now to go back into times when priests were hidden cubby holes beside fireplaces in big houses? Are we to go around with our heads bent, hiding on the stage, hiding when we're afraid to speak out? We must bring this message to every politician and aspiring politician in this country, that we will not stand for it, that we will defend our right to speak, that we will defend the right of every man, woman and child in this country to have an opinion which differs from that of the state, or of the EU, or of America. Whether that position is one on the current movement to World War III, whether it's on transgender, whether it's on migration or immigration, whether it's on housing or any of the other issues that affect this society. We have risen and we won't be going back into our box. And every time we come out there is an increase in numbers. The increase may be small, but it is growing. And we need to make this summer a summer of discontent for the political class. They need to realise we are here, and we are here to stay. They can bring in whatever legislation they want.
But they won't shut us up.
Yes!
They won't tell us what to do, or what to say, or where to go. That day is gone. Our day is here now.
Yes!
Thank you very much, Maliki. On that regard, there is another rally being held next Saturday. It's International Worldwide Freedom Rally, and that is beginning at the Garden of Remembrance at 11:45. So you might want to attend that as well. I think it's very timely. I think we need to keep the pressure up on the government. I will be passing around shortly with a bucket. And as you know, we need a new generator, or we need a new speaker, because there's a problem here. So if you could contribute, I think
I'll go around with the bucket as long as I get to take 50%.
which is the IFP number.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah! Okay, it's a bit tough following Maliki, but I'll give it my best shot.
Throw myself in it, that's
We're not supposed to agree on everything. We are individuals. We are not a collective, and therefore we all have different views. That's why in our Constitution, Bunach the Aaron, Article 40.6.1 states the right of the citizen to express freely their convictions and opinions. Men and women died for our freedom. Now, let me ask you some questions. To all the women, do you want freedom of speech? Yes! To all the men, do you want freedom of speech? Yes! Yes, me too. Well, what about the voiceless people in Ireland? Our children are homeless, are sick, are elderly, the 500,000 family carers. So my last question is to everyone. Will you speak up for the voiceless people of Ireland? Yes! Good, me too. If we believe something is wrong, we should speak up. This hate speech bill wants to suppress our freedom. This is what communism and fascism is all about. It is complete dictatorship. Our corrupt doll makes lies sound true. Every decision they make is solely about money. They do not care about us. During the lockdown, they pretended they cared. They took control of our lives to keep Granny and Grandad safe. However, in the last 18 months, the government has allowed 20 nursing homes to close. They should be opening up 20 nursing homes. Yes. That's over 500 residents have lost their homes, 700 jobs, Irish and non-Irish, and the carers no longer get a respite now. And since 2017, 47 nursing homes have closed down. During the launch of this hate speech bill, the NGOs used the slogans, love, not hate, cherish us all equally. The doll hates our carers, and they do not cherish our elderly. Why did the doll let so many nursing homes close? It's a simple reason. Arrogant. It's money. Last year, 11 active nursing homes were converted into accommodation by the government for 30 pieces of silver. They sold their souls. Before the practice was banned last September, it got banned because it was elder abuse. Now they want to lift that ban, just like the eviction ban, that is making more people homeless. This shows the complete hypocrisy of our government. They hate our elderly, the people that worked all their lives for this country and paid taxes. We are all going to get old. This affects everyone in Ireland. In George Orwell's book, 1984, he warned us about totalitarianism. He said in his book, the moral to be drawn about this dangerous nightmare is a simple one. Don't let it happen. It depends on you. It depends on all of us. So the big question is, what can we actually do? Short term, and this is Paddy Houlihan's idea. He's an independent councillor from Tala. He said, send a letter or a postcard to President Michael D. Higgins and ask him, we deserve a debate on the hate speech bill. Medium term, we could take it to the Supreme Court. And in the long term, we vote these corrupt actors out of the Dáil. No more career politicians with an EU global agenda.
Yes, get them out!
Hell yeah! We need real people in the Dáil and in every county council that speak for all the people of Ireland, all age groups. We vote for people in with common sense, integrity, a backbone, and most importantly, vote in people who want freedom of speech. Ergaba!
Hey! That's it.
Loyal man who introduces the... No pull like an old soul, huh? Now the man who introduces himself very modestly as Pretty Paul. Give your hand together for Paul Fitzsimons. Dublin West. Dublin West. I'll take my glasses off and let you see my eyes. I like to see people. My name is Paul Fitzsimons, I'm Dublin West candidate. And what I will say about this hate speech bill is, this has been coming a long time. They tried to silence us from doing vaccine marches. Then they told us we were anti-vaxxers. Then they told us we were anti-maskers. Now we're out doing the migration thing and they're telling us we're fascist, we're far right, we're racist. We are none of them things. We are concerned parents, concerned grandparents, and just concerned patriots in this country. But looking out through the crowd here now, and I can see all of my friends now that I know from a long time, and I have to hand it to them. The Battle of Pearse Street, boy, Jesus, that went well. That's what we need in this country. And this government knows now that we are ready to stand up. We are ready to fight. This is what we need to do. In every city, every town, anywhere they're putting this shit in, we need to get out and get our voices heard. People sitting at home now today, they're watching Liverpool or whatever, they have a handy life, they have the few quid in the bank, it's going to affect you too. This hate speech law is for everybody. The migration thing is going to affect you as well, because when these people get thrown out of hotels, they're only a train ride away from where you live. And when they start putting tents in your area, that's when you wake up. We're here to tell you to wake up now. My friend now, Gavin Pepper, an independent.
You on the gun! You on gun!
How is everybody?
Yeah!
Look at them gorgeous flags. There's no European flag here. They're Irish flags.
That's it, guys. That's it.
And fair play to the people of Pearse Street and the North Inner Sea for coming together. Because that's what democracy is. We want to take away freedom of speech. Well, let me tell you what taking away freedom of speech means. It means we don't have people like that man, Philip Boyer. We don't have people like Nick the Kid. People like all these people that came out, grip media, and showing you what's really happening in the streets of Dublin and around the country. So, if I wanted communism, I'd go to North fucking Korea.
Yes!
But I live in a democracy, and my kids matter. And I'll fight for my kids
speech. Will you fight with me?
Yes! Yes!
Japan is for the Japanese. France is for the French. Everybody, who's fucking Ireland for?
The Irish!
The Irish! Everybody, stand up. It's great to see all the dads finally coming out to support the women. Because the women have more balls than the men in this country.
Especially the last few months, absolutely.
We're gonna have the people around going to have a march up the Mount Street after this to support those people.
Yeah.
Because that's what we should be doing. And that's what this is about. We all need to fight this. This hate speech bill, everybody, is madness. It's a fight on their right to stand up. It's a fight on their right as people to express how we feel. I agree to some parts of it, but not all of it. And that's the important part. It needs to be scrapped. It belongs in the fucking fire. Right? So I'll leave you with that. Go and mark up. And here's one for it. This is an Irish people's word. Chucky Ireland!
Yes! Go on, Gav! Go on, Gav! Well done, Gav! That's it. Well done. Well said, Gav.
Freedom! 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 Good man, have you emptied out your pockets? Michael, Leahy. We should be jumping. But all that stuff about free speech, why are they trying to shut us down? Because they don't want us talking about immigration. Because they don't want us to be talking about, what is it? Chicks with dicks. Or cocks and frogs. That's what they want to stop. They don't want us talking about Leo when he's... They want to silence us, and their compliant media in Ireland are doing this country a lot of damage. But do you know what? Like in the 60s and 70s, we will overcome everything that these people put in front of us, and we will not be defeated, because this is Ireland. We are Irish people, and we must pass it on to our children and grandchildren. I would ask you, do us a big favour, try to ring up your senator. It's the last gasp hope of any change in this bill. Also, if you can, to donate to the party. I feel that here's the legal speech now. Donate to the party, join if you can, tell your friends and family about it. Consider voting for the Irish Freedom Party come the next local and general election, and get onto your local TD and put the fear of God into them, that you tell them we want a free people and a free country and nothing else. So I will pass you over now to conclude with Chairman Michael Lee. Go ahead, Michael, sir. Thank you very much. I just want to repeat what Herman said. Oh yeah. Across, see opposite Storch Street, Garda Station, there's Ryan's Pub. See you all in Ryan's Pub afterwards. Alright, Ryan's Pub there, opposite Storch Street. Okay, folks, this has been a wonderful evening today. Thank you very, very much for everybody who contributed, and many people contributed very, very generously to our speaker fund, and the next time hopefully we'll have a proper sound system. If anybody still wants to contribute, the bucket is still here and it ain't going away, and we need all the support we can get. It's important for people to come out on a regular basis. We can organise some of these events. There will be an event next week, 11:45, the Garden of Remembrance. That would be a good one to go to. I may go to it myself and see if I can get a speaking slot there. But we have to keep the pressure on our senators and on our TDs. It's with the Senate now. We have to stop this bill. If this bill is passed, that's the end of politics in this country, and we will not let that happen under any circumstances. We have to fight as Irish people always do, and that's what we're going to do. Thank you for coming. God save Ireland.
We're turning off.
Sorry, I beg your pardon. We did have one last speaker. So we have Tracy O'Hanlon who's going to sing Our On the Via, and unfortunately she's going to have to sing it through the loud table.
1, 2. Hello everyone, I'm very proud to be here with these beautiful people today. I want you to join in with the best song that has ever passed the lips of any Irish man or Irish woman.
Are you holding that? Yeah, go, give me that. Come on. No more, no. Should have a white and orange one as well. Yeah, green, white and orange for the oil man. Thanks very much. Listen. always up to something. Thanks very much. Hi folks. This.
So if anybody wants to contribute any more, the bucket is right here.
Here we go, isn't it? That's it. Hi folks, from Custom House Quay, you're gonna love this and leave this, eh? Arden Cabra, Dublin forever.
I'll see you later.